Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're taking a look once again at my Toro Timemaster, and yet again something is broken. Hopefully you are hearing my disappointment with this. I'm frustrated with how many of these repairs I've had to make, and this was a repair I honestly was not expecting to have to make. So let me just pan over here to the handle. So I was mowing about 5 days ago, and all of a sudden I was pushing down on the lever here to execute a turn. And then all of a sudden the metal right here snapped off, and the other side over here is bent. You can see where it's about to break right here. So as a result of this, if I push down on this handle, it just simply falls down like that, because this has broken all the way out there, as you can see. And so I need to replace this upper handle, which is a repair I honestly didn't expect that I would have to be doing. So we're going to be doing that repair today, and if you have the same problem, I'm sorry. I feel your frustration with this, but we'll get through this together, and so let's get started. All right, let's take a look at the parts that we're going to need for this project. First, we're going to need the handle, which is out here, and so for the Timemaster, this is part number, I believe we turn it here, 3802520. Just a big metal black handle. And then I also got a couple extra of these bolts. This is what holds it on the side. I was concerned that the back side of these threaded knobs might have gotten damaged when the old handle broke, so I got those. You don't necessarily need those, but I thought it was better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. So now let's take a look at the tools you're going to need for this. The tools that you're going to need for this repair are going to be really basic. You're going to need a couple of flathead screwdrivers to basically use as pry bars to remove the personal pace handle. A whatever size, like just a small 3/8 ratchet's fine. You're going to need about a 6-inch or longer 3/8 extension, and you're going to need a 9/16 socket, hex socket, to be able to remove the upper blue bail handle, and about 20 minutes of your time. That's about it, along with the parts I just talked about. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to remove this extra blue push handle using a 9/16 socket here with an extension to remove these little acorn lock nuts here from the very top. This will be the first thing off, and it'll be the last thing we put back on after this repair is over. There is a little washer that goes on the front side of this. All right, so the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to remove the personal pace cable. To do this here, I'm going to adjust the bracket that also holds my key mechanism on, because then that's going to loosen up the cable here to give me some slack to be able to simply pop this out of this little hook there. And then while I'm at it, now you may or may not have the electric start option that I have here. And I'm just going to go ahead and undo the rest of this knob here. So this key mechanism here can detach. And I'll pull the bolt out of that and lift that up. Hopefully you can see. Here's the key, and that wraps around with the throttle cable going through that little sleeve. And then now, to keep all my parts straight, I just put this back together in the way the assembly goes. And you can see, well, that will kind of flop off to the side there while we deal with this upper handle here. So at this point, we have the option. We could go ahead and remove the fold down threaded nuts and bolts here off either side. So then there, that's off. I'll put that just on like that. I'll put that bolt just on like that, again, just to help keep my parts straight. And then the other side, well, that's already broken for me. So now what remains is dealing with the personal pace system at the top of the handle, if you will. So now to begin to remove this, we're going to try to get with the spring here and disconnect the spring on what would be the right side. So that's disconnected there. And now we can move this bar to either side. And this is where it's going to be a little bit tricky, because we're going to need to be able to get this bar out of here. And then now when we're here, we can take this bail here, if you will, that normally has this little spring on it, fold it down, and then we can press it in on one side and the other. Then we can remove this bail and set aside. And then now we've got this upper part here completely free and detached from any cables. And now we have to be able to work on getting this part of the personal pace system detached from this upper handle so we can actually transfer that to our replacement part. And now the next step is going to be to remove this bar out of that personal pace part. And to do that, we're going to pull up on both parts of the handle like that. So the top of the plastic is towards the top of the metal. And then with that up there, we're going to be able to fold that up like that. And that's going to disconnect this bar from inside of the personal pace adjustment. And now this is probably going to be the hardest part, is we have to be able to just slightly flex this together like this to be able to pop this out of the handle. There we go, just like that. Be careful, there's a spring. And the other parts, we'll just leave those together and set those on the ground just like that. Be careful and keep track. There's a couple of these little bushings and washers that go like that. And then now our personal pace mechanism handle still does not come off of the bar. As you'll see, it still gets trapped at the bottom. One of the other quirks in the process is at the bottom of the personal pace mechanism by the handle, there's a little barb. So we're going to stick a screwdriver in here to be able to pry it up to lift this leading edge over this front lip here. This is what keeps the personal pace handle from drooping all the way down towards the mower. So now to hopefully loosen this up here, we're going to use a flathead screwdriver as a pry bar by getting inside of this gap here and trying to lift up. There we go. This is easily the most difficult part of the process. And then now once you've got it loosened up on both sides, you should just be able to push this down over the barb on both sides like this. And then the handle here just slides off the handle, and we'll set that aside. And then we're going to be left with our handle that has these little plastic rails on each side. These just snap right off. So then to get the rails on each side off, we'll just put in a little flathead screwdriver, and then just with a little bit of pry action, it should pop right off, just like that. They are specific to the side of the mower. So I'm going to lay this one I just took off on the left side here, just to help have the right orientation, because ultimately where those blue handles go, where the blue handle goes, that is at an angle. So it does make a difference for which side is which in the layout here. And so now we'll come and pry the other side off here using just a flathead screwdriver. Just like that. Set that aside, and now the hard part is behind us. Now it's all about assembling the new handle. So now when it comes to reassembly of the handle, pay attention to where these holes are at the top, where the blue auxiliary handle goes. So if you put it back up into mowing position like this, the holes would be perpendicular to the ground. And then we're going to take our guide rails, and these go on the outside of the handle. Make sure you get that bar, make sure you get the barb side towards the bottom. And then these just simply snap down into place. Like that on one side. Repeat on the other side. There are a couple of these little plastic pins here that you can use to help to locate this for exactly where this will go, like that. So it's kind of foolproof once you get it. And once those are in place, we're going to take our personal pace control panel, and we're just going to simply slide this on the bottom of the rails, pull it up, and then we're going to pull it past those little catches. And then now now you can see those little catches that we had to kind of pry apart earlier. We'll capture that so it is fully locked into place. And then now we can go over and replace the bail and the spring that actually control the personal pace part of this. So now when it comes to placing this, we're going to use the hole. Let me pull this up here. the first open hole at the top, which is here, and that is where this is going to be placed. So you have to kind of play a little game to try to get this lined up with the handle and the bar to get that in a place that makes as much sense. Line it up like that. And then now this is where we're going to have the fun with bending the bar back into place. This is kind of the another not so fun part of this process. Bear in mind, it doesn't have to be fully seated in the plastic yet to do this, so that may make it easier to disconnect it like I have here. There we go, like that. And now I can slide this up into place. And now with a little bit of careful maneuvering, I should be able to kind of drop this personal pace panel back in here a little bit like that. There we go. I've got the spring a little bit backwards there. My spring is broken. I'm not terribly worried about that. But we've got that back in place now. So now we can put this onto the mower. And now the next thing I'm going to do is remove the existing bolts and the plastic washers. I got new ones of these, so this is probably optional for you, but I thought mine were chewed up enough from the way that it broke. As you can see on the back side there, the bolt here probably could be reused, but I can tell there's some serious wear here from where the handle been rubbing on the threads. So I'm just going to set that aside and replace that with new hardware. And then this is the bolt just simply slides through there. And then the new knob looks all nice and clean, and we'll set that aside, and we will repeat on the other side of the handle. And now comes the fun of attaching the new replacement handle. That goes like that. And the other side here, I'll just pop it around, put the bolt back through. Just like that. Here we go. That's all set there with the right orientation of those bolts. We'll put on the new knobs. So I have brand new hardware here at the bottom. We'll go back to the other side, put on the new knob here. So now we're going to install the bail handle, and we're going to make sure these wires go over the top. And the first step is going to be to install this little part right here into our personal pace handle. Lift it up, drop that right in like that. And then now we've got our personal pace blade control here that we're going to put in just like this. And then this is going to lock in like this, and whenever we get the rest of the mechanism up here in place, that will hold this metal part here securely so it doesn't flop over. But we've got to get the actual personal pace control cable here also set up here. But I'm going to unthread my keyhole knob here to get this part here all set to go by having to pop out the actual key slot like that. This is going to go over the handle. Just like this. But I'm going to leave this loose so there is some room that I can adjust this. And then we'll bring up the personal pace adjustment and drop that right in like that. One of the things here that's going to be really important is that we pay attention to this adjustment part right here. That is with the knob, so that whenever we have the personal pace handle pulled as far up as we can get it, make sure you have your spring set correctly. So when the personal pace handle is all the way retracted, we need this cable here to be tight. And we can do that by pulling down over here and then tightening the knob here that holds the key in. And that's going to modulate our personal pace adjustments. And that's going to pull the handle up to the top. And then if you did it right, You should be able to feel the resistance when you push this down, because when you're pushing this down, it's causing this little cam here. See, I probably need a little more light there with the cable to want to rise, which is what's generating your self-propelled. Double check that the blue lever here is all set correctly. You see my spring's broken there a little bit here. I'm not terribly worried about that. That just helps to force this to retract. And the last thing is going to be to add the blue handle right back up here, and then we're done. And now for the personal pace handle, we'll slide that right in here like this. We'll take the bolt, put that in from the back. And that'll come through like that. And repeat on the other side with the other bolt. We'll use our 9/16 socket and extension here to tighten this up. Just good and snug is good enough here. This doesn't have to be any crazy torque spec. There was blue thread locker on mine as it was, so just make it what feels good and tight to you, and that'll be just fine for what you need to hold that handle in place. You're going to be careful you don't over tighten this and risk cracking the blue handle, but that's good. That gives me enough rigidity. That blue thread locker on there will hold it just fine. And now we're done. And so now in about 20 minutes, you've got your handle replaced and it should be back in business, ready to mow. And when it comes to making the corners, this connection here is good and tight and ready to go. I should have been checking this a little more regularly to inspect this, to head this off before it happened while I was mowing. I was able to kind of struggle through and finish that mow, but there was definitely no bueno for the next mow until I got this repair done. And now I'm ready to go mow and take it for a test drive, and at least the upper part's good as new. So enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I've got a whole playlist of other Toro Timemaster repairs if that's of interest to you. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.